Fox News alert, check your watch, because in a couple hours, the Supreme Court expected to issue at least one ruling today.
And it could be on the Colorado case to determine whether or not former President Donald Trump will be kicked off the state's primary ballot.
Jillian Turner is live from the White House with the latest on that. Hey, Jillian.
Hi, good morning to you guys. President Biden has holed up at Camp David this morning, prepping for his big State of the Union speech on Thursday. So it may very well be the case the Supreme Court hands down a decision about his primary political rival's eligibility over on the Colorado ballot while President Biden is out of town. Now, there is a major sense of urgency to this decision out of the Supreme Court here because the state is among the 16 that are holding contests on Super Tuesday, now less than 24 hours away. Take a look at this. There are over 30 states that are challenging Trump's ballot eligibility in the courts. Of those 30 plus, President Trump carried 22 back in 2020, and President Biden just 14. Now, over at the Supreme Court, the justices are not scheduled to return in person now until March 15th. That's obviously next week, raising speculation that a ruling on the Colorado case will be handed down. During arguments that happened back in February, some of the justices expressed major skepticism about Colorado's efforts to kick Trump off its ballot. They posited that a decision in Colorado's favor could set a precedent that creates what they called an unmanageable situation in the country. Now, the Colorado court was the first to invoke Article 3 of the 14th Amendment. That's the one barring former office holders who engaged in insurrection from holding public office again. So as of now, guys, on Monday before Super Tuesday, Colorado does have the former president on their ballot. If the Supreme Court does not hand down a ruling today, voters tomorrow will be able to vote in favor of President Trump. But the Supreme Court could then strike those votes from the record at any point moving forward. A really unusual political dynamic at play here. Back to you guys.
And we'll know at 10 o'clock this morning. Jillian, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian.
All right, joining us now with her take on the High Court's looming decision, former federal prosecutor and constitutional law attorney, Katie Cherkasky. Good morning to you, Katie.
Good morning.
Morning.
Tell us what's happening in Colorado. Isn't it about their law there that was made so that Confederates couldn't run for state offices? And that doesn't apply to a president?
Well, that is the big question that the Supreme Court is dealing with here, and I think we should expect a decisive victory for Trump on this. The justices expressed extreme skepticism when they were talking about this issue, and essentially the question that they're looking at is whether Section 3 of the 14th Amendment applies to the office of the presidency, like could any president ever be disqualified, and even if it does it apply in this case where we don't have an actual finding that Trump committed an insurrection, at least not a criminal finding of any sort. So many ways that the court could go about doing this, but I would anticipate that's what the decision is that's dropping today.
Right. And Katie, as Jillian was just detailing during the oral arguments, which we all heard because they had an audio feed, you know, justices from across the ideological spectrum, they all agreed that if he were knocked off the Colorado ballot, and by extension then other states as well, this could have wide sweeping ramifications every election.
Oh, absolutely. I think the court foresaw the issues with having states individually determine the candidates for a national office, for the only national election, essentially the presidential election. And so certainly that is a big point of contention that the justices brought up. And so that's why I think we should expect a Trump victory on this. The question is if there will be a split in the court. Again, I don't anticipate that. But I think that the court's questions dictated their concerns with having individual states make these decisions for this national office.
You know, Katie, a lot of legal scholars have suggested that this is an important moment for the court to draw a red line, that they won't allow nonsense, even though it may go against their own political party. Do you agree with that analysis?
I think that the courts need to adhere to the meaning of the Constitution. I think they're going to spend a lot of time discussing the history of the 14th Amendment and the wording of that amendment and how it does or does not apply to the office of the presidency. The court tries to stay apolitical, as it were, but certainly they need to make those interpretations regardless of the parties or the political affiliations of those who are involved in each particular case.
And that's going to after this case goes the way I think you're indicating it's going to go, it's going to provide more momentum for President Trump. That's what's happened so far. Thanks, Katie.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.